Jack Smith's days of being a mime, a pantomime, Marcel Marceau, old reference, are over. He's out. He's talking. He's warning America. And he's threatened Congress that if he's going to testify, he wants the whole world to know about it. Donald Trump's destroyer in this corner, Jack Smith, former special counsel, coming loaded for bear. And he's told the world, in addition, he wants Pam Bondi, the current attorney general, to release, not the Epstein files, although that would be nice, Volume 2 about Mar-a-Lago and the incriminating evidence against Donald Trump, because it never got released to the American public. Let's go to Jack Smith. We're talking about it on Legal AF, the podcast, and here's a clip.
But Jack Smith's like, I want to talk about him because we're MAGA Republicans, Bondi, Trump. They keep on bringing up my name. So let me do what every special counsel has done before, which is testify about Volume 1, Volume 2. I want to get permission from Bondi. You know, you are talking a big game about all these things that you think I did wrong. Great. Let Congress ask me all of these questions. But then also, I don't want to fall into a trap. So just give me the authority to talk freely about everything, and I'll talk freely about everything. Happy to do it. And, you know, what's the response from MAGA, Popok? No, we want to prosecute Jack Smith, prosecute him. Okay, you can do that too, but why don't you allow me to testify in public first? It just says everything, you know, as we were talking about in the last segment, that, you know, remember when Hunter Biden wanted to testify publicly and the MAGA Republicans said, no, you can't. Like, I don't even get the mentality, you know, with all of these, you know, these like the MAGA followers, or like even like the podcast bros, right? Like, yeah, go get him. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm here. And then, you know, they're like, no, we actually don't want to get you now. And they're like, the podcast bros, like, yeah, that's the right move. Do it in secret. We're too scared. Popok, break it all down.
Yeah, and well, Jack Smith, who we hadn't heard from in a couple of years, is back with a vengeance, as I joked recently. Started with knowing that the drum beats to get him indicted, being led by Donald Trump and ordered by Donald Trump, are getting louder and louder. He said, I got an idea. Why don't I start talking to the American public? And he did an interview in London, which I'll show a clip from in a minute, with Andrew Weissman, another prosecutor colleague of his, in which he addressed many of the issues. Now, when they have a cardboard cutout of Jack Smith to punch at, MAGA, like Jim Jordan and Grassley, will say things like, he obviously weaponized the Department of Justice to silence Donald Trump. It was all a political witch hunt, and we want to hear from him. That's how they set it up. And he's fired back with 2 back-to-back letters. One was the one you and I reported on a couple of days ago, which was, will you stop calling it wiretapping? I know you got a lot of political mileage during the Pam Bondi hearing to have senators clutch their pearls about, I was wiretapped. How dare they? No. They sent a letter. They said, first of all, whatever we do it through federal judges who authorize the search warrant to obtain what's called tolling information. It's the equivalent of, remember the old phone bills we used to get? I'm sure I still get it digitally. I just don't look at them, which would list the date, the time, the duration of a phone call, who you called, phone number, that's it. The difference is a wiretap, and I've been involved with wiretapping cases on the civil side, is when you intercept in real time could be an email, could be a social media post, or it could be a phone call. And you're listening in and watching. You're peering in as the government. That's not what Jack Smith did. For a 3-day period, the 5th of January to the 7th of January, he wanted to see the phone calls that were being made to Congress and the Senate to see if they were trying to slow down the peaceful transfer of power at request of Donald Trump, which is why they pulled like Lindsey Halligan and Marsha Blackburn, other people who were public about it, to see if there were phone calls. We're not at the point of, they don't have the recordings of the phone calls. So that letter went out first. But now, in the last day, the lawyers who you and I know for Jack Smith at Covington, a huge firm in Washington, it's very well respected, Lanny Brewer, sent a letter that said, sure, actually, we have it here. Let me read from it. Mr. Smith respectfully requests the opportunity to testify in open hearings before the House and the Senate Judiciary Committee. And then buried in that letter, in the second paragraph, is something you and I have talked about, but I don't think gets enough attention. We always demand the release of the Epstein files and showing Donald Trump's cover-up of himself and powerful people. But I've been calling for, and you know it, because I did it almost immediately, Volume 2 of the final report of Jack Smith has been buried by Pam Bondi since the day she took office. There were 2 volumes that he did to wrap up his investigation. One was about the election interference case, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of pages with exhibits laying out the prosecutor case as to why they had the evidence to not only indict, but to convict Donald Trump for election interference. That was released to the American public, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump, who tried to stop it at the appellate level, even tried to stop it at the Mar-a-Lago Judge Eileen Cannon level, even though it wasn't her case. Volume 1 got released. You and I spent a lot of time with it. It sort of matched, except it had new information from what the Jan 6 committee had released in their 900-page book. But Volume 2 was about Mar-a-Lago. Now, I've always said I thought the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland made a mistake. I thought they should have dismissed the case against Walt Nauta, the butler for Donald Trump, the valet, and the IT guy, Carlos de Oliveira. Because but by that case still being alive after the immunity decision came in and Donald Trump getting immunity, but with them not getting immunity and being represented by Stan Woodward, who's now the number 3 in the Department of Justice, by keeping that case alive, it gave Cannon an ability to block the release of the Mar-a-Lago final report, Volume 2, to the American people. Instead, Merrick Garland left it in the top drawer of his desk with a Post-it note. I'm not making this up. It's pretty close, to Pam Bondi saying, well, you're the new Attorney General. You do. We were begging him. Remember at the end of the administration, before the inauguration, release Volume 2. Well, here's what Jack Smith has to say about Volume 2. He says in his letter, to that end, Mr. Smith needs guidance from the Department of Justice. We're looking at you, Pam Bondi, regarding federal grand jury secrecy requirements and authorization on the matters he may speak to regarding, among other things, Volume 2 of the final report of the special counsel, which is not publicly available. In fact, we've got a clip of Jack Smith just in the last 2 weeks giving that interview and breaking his silence. Let's play it now.
Idea that politics would play a role in big cases like this, it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's totally contrary to my experience as a prosecutor. These are team players who don't want anything but to do good in the world. They're not interested in politics, and I get very concerned when I see how easy it is to demonize these people for political ends. I worked in the department for years, Republican, Democrat, Republican. I was the acting U.S. attorney in the first Trump administration in Tennessee. Nothing like what we see now has ever gone on. If there's rules in the department about how to bring a case, follow those rules. You can't say, I want this outcome, let me throw the rules out. The problem is not prosecuting high officials who did something wrong when you do it according to the processes of law in your country. It's the retaliation. That's the problem.
He has said on the record he had more than enough to convict Donald Trump of espionage and obstruction of justice as it relates to Mar-a-Lago, and he wants the American people to hear it from him. Now, here's what Jamie Raskin had to say about this, because the letter was CC'd to Jamie Raskin, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee. Mr. Smith has made clear that he is prepared to address those allegations publicly. And I can think of no reason to deny the American people the opportunity to hear his testimony under oath and with questioning from members of both parties, and to let all Americans judge for themselves the integrity of Mr. Smith's investigation. There is no reason his appearance should be in the shadows of a back room, Jamie Raskin wrote, and subject to the usual tiresome partisan tactics of leak and distort. They're the party of leak and distort, and we're the party of truth and justice. We're not hiding in the shadows. Our people want to come forward and look the American people in the eye and be cross-examined. That's fine. But in public, and that, as you said, is the sharp contrast between the two parties that exist right now with law and justice. Welcome back. I sit at the intersection of law and politics that you don't have to. every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us on the YouTube for Midas Touch. Get us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Do both. That's what keeps us to the top of the charts. And by doing so, you're protecting our independent commentary from being taken off the air. Become a member, a subscriber on the Legal AF YouTube. Become a paid subscriber on Legal AF Substack. And now we've got the ammunition we need to defend ourselves against the onslaught of governmental attack. So till my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.